Welcome to another Zoom meeting and podcast of Here's Tom with the Weather, where we investigate the plethora of higher powers that populate the vast universe of 12-step recovery, where alcoholics riff out on step 3 and step 11 as prescribed by the founders of Alcoholics Anonymous, who encourage us to find some kind of higher power as long as it's not us. We speak to people with all manner of higher powers, from those who are atheists, Sufis, agnostics, Christians, Jews, Buddhists, followers of Islam, Hermetics, paganists, non-duality. We leave no stone unturned. It's our aim to promote understanding and open-mindedness so that alcoholics and addicts can find a higher power of their own to stay sober and carry the message. We promote tolerance and empathy for folks who have different spiritual practices than us. It's all about live and let live. And please remember, this is not an AA meeting. It's just a Q&A, and we talk to people about their version of the truth, whatever that may be. Sometimes we talk to seekers, to gurus, and not necessarily people in recovery. But today it's my great pleasure to introduce you to somebody who is in recovery and who's a very good friend of mine. It's Donal O'c. How are you, Donal? We'll have to unmute him. But just before he answers, I'm going to read you a very quick bio that I've put together. Because Donal sent me a couple of pages of stuff that he wrote in 1972, so he missed out quite a significant chunk of it, but I'll give you a brief rundown. Donal O'c was born in 1941, and he describes his birth as thus. I was born behind a veil. I slid into this world as the sun rose while a black cat walked by the bed as my mother held tightly onto a relic of St Teresa. She described Donal's birth as being a painless one, although he certainly made up for that in the years following. He attended Trinity College, but the student nurses, slow horses, Guinness, and late-night boogies led him away to trips around the world, seeking highs and lows and spiritual fulfilment right across the world. He's sober 30 years, he's a published author and a supporter of Munster Rugby Club. He himself played in the position of hooker. And to our American friends and anyone who doesn't know the game of rugby, the hooker is the guy who sits in the middle of the scrum in the front row, and when they fend down, and he's the one who gets punched and kicked and does all the punching, kicking, and biting himself. So I'm going to ask you to unmute there, Donal.
Thank you, David.
Yeah. Now, first question, just bear with me on this. So I want you to imagine that it's a test match. Ireland are playing England. It's the last minute of the game. Ireland managed to score a try, and the score with a minute to go is Ireland 24, England 25. You've got to get a kick from the sideline, conversion from the sideline. The wind is blowing a gale. What God do you pray to get the ball between the posts?
Jesus, do you know what I mean? Ask that, do you know what I mean? That's testing everything to the very maximum, and that's you prayed to the energy that was there on the Fianna, and the Fianna was before Christianity was back, when there was Cú Chulainn, when there was Finn MacCool, when there was where there were other laws that were Christian, and where the Druids were in action. And when you said I was born behind a veil, I was born under a call, which I actually have here, and which sailors would give you a lot of money for, fairy people, but you would call on the magic, and that's what you would call on the gods of magic from that point. More between us, especially when it would come to the island that's beside us, that we'd have to better them when it came to sport. But the Englishman is a sport, you know what I mean? And that's the one thing. We don't know about British, because the British has a colonial aspect, but the Englishman, the Welshman, and the Scotsman is all right.
Good answer. So, mate, let's go back. I gave a very, very cheeky, brief bio. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and just tell us about what you were, where you were before. Just a quick one. Just where you were before you got sober. What was your spiritual outlook like? Obviously, there's a strong Gaelic and druid connection with your spirituality, and I've spoke to many for many hours on end about this. Just tell us about a little bit about Donal before you came into the rooms, before you got sober and clean.
Do you know, David, the easiest way to do that, you know what I mean, is I wrote out something a while back, and that's called Gift. And it kind of gives a briefer kind of, and it's a concise kind of an outline. And well, I can read it out because it is concise. And
Okay.
I'll call it the Gift. It was called, I wrote it back to 10 years ago, or maybe more.
Yeah, just as long as it's not going to take an hour, just a couple of minutes is great, mate.
Yeah,
yeah.
I'll try and get through it as fast as possible.
That's all right. You go for it, mate.
Okay.
All right.
Many a tear has to fall, but it's all in the game of love. The tinkling memory of the country song playing loud and clear, and flashing coloured bulbs, and the rumbling generators and machines that twirled the chaeroplanes and grumbled the dodgem cars on the metal floors, while sparking the overhead electrified mesh, lit up nomadic vista with potential to travel in a circus of burlesque magic. For me, the young impressionable, pain and magic were on the agenda for growing up, and I was on the way. A horny excitement was growling within, and this was happening before Fagin stood proud to take over my teenage yearnings. Something was calling me. All this was private and not for adult endorsement or contemplation. Something wild and primitive got precedence, invariably over all the ramblings in my internal dialogue. Instinct was rising to prominence, and what society offered with its conformity was tame and unexciting. Hollywood movies, propaganda glorifying the conformist. British movies spoke down with marble mouth and was not to be trusted. French movies were sometimes arty, thought-provoking and worthy of consideration now and again. War was over. They said German, Japanese, and Italian fascism had been vaguely exposed and defeated, and the new villain was communism, socialism. Confusion reigned in the adolescent mind. You had to believe in the god in the frock with the beard, or else Lady Justice with the balanced scales was lopsided in favor of rich rulers. A thirst was growing for some form of experiential confirmation of truth. No one out there could be trusted. What about the Holy Ghost? Did I believe in ghosts? Well, there was some energy running me, other than my intellect. My grandmother was at ease with her yoga. Yoga was union, and what? Yourself, your spirit. Search for spirit to make me feel happy, content, satisfied, connected. Real communion, in other words. While the journey was long, arduous, interesting, it had to come to the stage where you'd give all for the feeling of certainty. A clinical moment of clarity, while indulging the full in booze, hallucinating drugs, in religion, in sex, and facing ensuing loneliness, emptiness, and feelings of abandonment. And all that was left besides suicidal thoughts was resentment for the feelings of abandonment. And that meant that once upon a time, I had felt a connection to something. But the search was on again. Find the guru to instruct in the yoga, the one to bring you from goo to ru. Yes, darkness to light. Authenticity with integrity was hard to ascertain, but I knew from Kabir, Rumi, Tulsidas, that Satguru was greater than God. Why? Because he revealed God within the individual. His duty was to manifest the true devotee. So, Master is found. His presence is serene, tranquil, and full of love. Incredible, but how do I get to hold on to it for myself? Now, his gift to me was to show source, the light, love, peace, joy, the happiness was already there within myself. He just revealed the techniques on how to get in. The greater the thirst, the deeper it would be, and it required practice. He explained that he was just like a lit candle, and that he had to remain lit in order to light others, because he had taken on the job since he was 8 years old. Lovely stories he told, and when asked what gift would he ask for if he met a genie, and without a hesitation he smiled that beautiful, innocent smile. Greatest gift of all, gift of devotion. Basically, you had God by the short hairs if you had the gift of devotion. He had to come for the devotee.
Thank you very much. Wow. Jeez. Okay. Just add hot water, and there you go, mate. That's fantastic. So you often introduce yourself when I've been in meetings, and I love the way that you always introduce yourself. It always makes your presence felt. But can you just tell us a little bit about your last the last day before you got sober? Just in your own words, tell us a little bit about what it was that brought you in.
The day before I came in 72, and I was in and out, in and out, in and out. But I got clean and sober in Alcoholics Anonymous. And that was in the 17th of July, 1990. And a week before that, it's important to go to that point. A week before that, I was trying to come off innocent marijuana, a bit of weed, a bit of blow, now a bit of hashish, whatever it was. It was always something. And I had it most mornings of my life for 18 years, between 1972 and 1990. And it wasn't working. And sorry, I'd been dreaming about a policeman that I wanted to kill, because he used to question my children when they came out from school, from secondary school. And I thought I was going to go, I wanted to go down and get a bottle of whiskey. And I knew if I drank the whiskey, I'd probably probably kill him, because that resentment was there. And it was one of the last things to leave me every night. And I tried to meditate, and sometimes I'd meditate and down it, but then sometimes I just was not connected. And he was constantly interfering with meditation or whatever, and the anger was there because he questioned my children in front of other children. And I had this terrible resentment. And I knew if I drank, I was going to kill him. So I went to my friend Eugene, and he was out in Banor, and I rang him and I said, I can't do that now, I'm going insane. And he said, not to come to visit him. if I was still on the bit of, and I was still using the bit of blow. I had to do it. I couldn't come that day, but I had to come the following morning without the bit of blow, because he said that it put the two of us on two different wavelengths. I had to be without substance on the visit. And he came and he said, "You're still using that stuff?" And I said, yeah, I mean. And he said, "Why?" And I well, it makes me easier to live with. It makes the music comes. You know, I can hear the music better. I can do. I was waffling bullshit. Here's somebody I spoke nearly all my life long, and here I was beginning to waffle, and I knew I was waffling. And he's looking me right in the eyes, and he says, "Was I using it to relax?" Head dropped, and I nodded, yes. I was using something to relax, and yet I was going to meetings, and I was putting my hand up, and I was pretending to be like all of you guys, a lot of you guys that go to meetings, and that I was using a substance. I was taking my own medication. It wasn't from the doctor, but it was my own prescription. He threw me a snorkel, and he said, "We're going fishing," and we went to spear some fish. And that was the last day that I used any mood-altering substance. About a week later, I was going through hell backwards, and I wanted to take my life. My children were away in Germany with their mother, and I didn't want them to come home and find me hanging in the shed. And I had a rope and a dodgy step ladder, always there, and had it all fixed. I tried to ring Eugene again. No, an answering machine. Rang Michael C. Answering machine. Jesus Christ! I went to visit my friend Colin, a lovely, beautiful man. He took one look at me and he said, "Oh, mother of Jesus," he said, "get into the car." You know what I mean? He didn't want me coming into the house. He knew there was something really weird about it. And Colin, we drove down to look at the ocean. He pulled down his collar. He showed me. I told him that I wanted to end it all. He said, "All right, I'll cut you down," because the kids wouldn't find me in the shed hanging. And that was one of the times I relaxed. I really relaxed without substance. I had nothing inside me, but I was feeling my feeling. And to feel that, and he said, and he waited a while and he looked at me and he said, "Before I do, I want you to know you can try this program for a day at a time like the rest of us." And I've been coming ever since with gratitude, a day at a time like the rest of you. And Colin himself passed on with horse tranquilizers and whiskey. My friend Austin, around the same time, hopped up on a door because his wife couldn't take the alteration in the social gatherings and going out. And another lovely, lovely lady that carried a message and told me that I could use AA to come off the bit of bow and come off the rim that I nearly carried in my pocket. And 3 of them had gone to 3 funerals I had to go to. And I'm still here and I'm sent back. And I'm grateful for that. Because that's one of the most important things that it was the turning point in my life. And I have to acknowledge that. And that's, it was the hard times, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
At that time, I was living in caravans I had a big hotel business that I've been in, all the big shop businesses that were there. Here I was living in caravans. 2 more children had arrived. First 4 children were gone, and the first wife was gone. So a lot has happened. There's 6 children there. There's 7 grandchildren, and there's 2 great-grandchildren, and they're all happy, and they're all speaking, and I'm close to them, and that's what's happened as a result of the steps, and as a result of the love and encouragement that I get from you people, and from that energy that I spoke about, and from that meditation, that prayer and meditation, it works. Because if it wasn't working, you know what I mean? Because I thought that when I found that man that showed me what was inside, that fuck, I mean, I needn't go to AA again. I needn't go near you guys at all. And he always said, "Up, you dopey, drink, you drunk." You know what I mean? And to go, not to be going to him for that was a solution. Here, what he wanted from me was a practice. What did he ask for practice? He says there was a 3-legged stool. It was satsang, service, and meditation. Satsang is the company of truth. When I go to a meeting and people are sharing honestly, I'm at satsang. And I've gone to satsang through lots of different places in India, through different things, through the Sarj Marj, into Shivananda's ashram down in the south of Kerala. I've been through the Mormons, I've been through Christianity, the Bhagavad Gita from beginning to end. And I've searched because God could and would if he were sought. Who's this God guy? I'm looking at this God guy when I'm looking at all you guys, because there's no difference. It's there within us all, something magical. A bit of magic. You asked for the magic that was going between the goalposts. Druid had to expose it. Something is, and it's bigger than that head, and it's bigger than that ego. That ego that edging God out. There's a great way to express what ego is. But there's something inside that surrenders, sweet surrender. When all is up, feel love. Able to let love in. You know what I mean? Have devotion, gift of devotion. Feel grateful for that breath, because it's still breathing me. You know what I mean? I'm breathing today with gift of a cow belly, believe it or not. The piece of a cow that's been put on my aortic valve. That a lovely Indian man put in there, and that's about 8 years ago. Poor old Rita was coming in to look at me, you know what I mean, stretched out, and when they took out my heart, and I was chasing nurses again because, and she forgave me. Rita forgave me for that, and that's because that piece is there, and the gift, and I had to acknowledge that something removed the fear while all that was happening, because there's something inside. There's a light, and one of the most beautiful, incredible things that's within it is light. And when they say, I mean, I think it was Matthew or one of these guys, I mean, in the Gospels, that talked about the light within, and the light within is where it is, and find someone to reveal that light that's within. And that's what it's about, because it's there. And there's a sound within. If you're in a deprivation chamber, if people check that out, you'll find that there is a sound within. Okay, some people, the scientists say it's back to the Big Bang, and the vibration is still there, but those vibrations are within us. And I don't believe that, I know that. It's not a belief structure. It has to be experiential. It has to be felt. And when you're sitting up there, surrendered, because there's no mood altering substance triggering off the hallucinations or anything of that nature, when it's raw reality and everything, then.
Fantastic. So, mate, it just strikes me, because we've spoke a lot over the past year since I've met you on the Zoom experience, the COVID lockdown experience. Would you describe yourself as a mystic? And can you give us a couple of, maybe an example of a mystical experience that you've had?
Jesus, mystic. I don't put myself any different from any of you guys.
No,
Whatsoever.
Absolutely not. No.
I've had experiences that were
Paranormal?
Well, I suppose, yeah, paranormal. The first one, which was, and connects to that light, was as a 9-year-old, I was looking after my little brother, who was about 3 at that time. And I was in the country house. My parents had gone, and I was there to look after them. And it was a big rambling mansion that we were in while my father was building another house. And so we were only occupying half a dozen rooms in the place. It was big and rambling. I was upstairs and in a very big room, and door closed, but there was no handle on the door on the inside. And I'm there, and my little brother is downstairs, it's a 3-story house. Geez, I had to get it. Do you know what I mean? At 9 years of age, do you know what I mean? You're going to be there all day as ever. That's eternity. So I tried to open the door, couldn't get it to open. Shouted for him to bring up something. No, with a piece of metal, square metal on the floor. I tried to open the door. No, so I opened the window, looked down 3 floors below. I shouted at him, get the cushions off the armchair, and to put them out, lie them down below. I was going to jump 3 floors. I'm sitting on the window ledge. I'm holding my stomach, you know what I mean? And I said, fuck, you know what I mean? My guts will fall out. It's a big fucking jump, you know? And I went back to the door, and I had the window wide open. I went back to the door, tried to open it with just the square with this piece of metal. And when why I did it was I prayed to my guardian angel, O angel of God, my guardian dear, to whom God's love commits me here, ever this day be at my side to light and guard, rule and guide. And that was all I did, you know what I mean? I said, help me, you know what I mean, more or less. That was I didn't believe too much in any of the other stuff. But when I opened I turned the key in it, or not the key, but the piece of metal, just the handle, and the door blew in towards me.
Oh, wow.
Now, it happened, I know now, you know what I mean, it was paranormal, because the door downstairs that he had put out the cushions, it left that open, and my window was open upstairs. There must have been a draft coming through or something. Got the door in to me.
Wow.
Went down below, put my arms around my little brother. We took our clothes off and we lay in the sun. And as we lay in the sun, with my eyes closed, I saw a light. It was there. It was a big shining light like that. That was the first time I saw that light. Next time I saw that light was in Tremor Bay, having where I had taken, I was on 2 bottles of spirits a day, blackmailing the chemist for Benzedrine, and drink had stopped working. Everybody was telling me what a great hotelier I was and all the rest of it, but I needed 2 bottles to function. And yet suicide was what I had to do. I'd taken out a big insurance policy on myself. And I said, I swam on a regular basis, late at night in the early morning. I went out to swim, never to come back. I swam into total exhaustion, sinking.
Yeah.
That light came back. I was never going to fucking see that light again. And I knew what I was doing. Something inside me, not just me, not my head or anything else, something inside me kicked. I ended up about 1.5 miles or 2 miles over on Mahon Beach. People were going to mass on the Sunday morning. I'm clutching my goalies to get back to the car where I had left the car on the beach. But that light, that was the paranormal again. If it was paranormal, I don't know.
Wow.
But something sent me back. Oh, I went in, looked at my children. I had 3 children at that stage. Meant to be a very successful hotelier. And what could I do? I looked at them. We're all asleep. Bum, bum, bum. When I'd been coming in out of the water, my chest was cut to ribbons because I was too exhausted to pull myself up on the rocks. The barnacles had cut the hell out of my chest. I get the styptic pencil that you use for shaving, put it on my chest, put on a white vest and a clean white shirt and whatever, and I went to work. That was all I could do. All I could do was work and drink and be outward. I was acting day and night in order. I was most unhappy. I needed something. I needed love and encouragement, and I was unable to hear it or feel it because I had used that anesthetic from childhood, from my teenage years, because I'd been traumatized since I was a child. Coming from a cathedral town, and first communion didn't work. I was looking down, it just didn't happen. I had 2 uncles who went on to be bishops. I had a lot of this stuff. I had an aunt and nun. She was a good one. She was a music teacher, and some members of Alcoholics Anonymous even thought she was a wonderful woman. She was an exception. Something works with you guys. I can't. I get communion when I go to meetings and when I come into an area where people are sharing honestly, where they're sharing from that space internally. I get something magical. I need that truth. It's like a zip. It just opens and something can happen, you know?
So my understanding is that you've been a spiritual seeker. I use that word, the inverted commas, from before you got sober, or before you stopped smoking marijuana. You've been on a sort of a spirit and getting sober was part of that spiritual journey.
Yep.
Where are you? I mean, I'm struggling to kind of get a grip on what your spiritual belief is. It's sort of, is it Indian? Are we talking Celtic? Are we talking Druid? How would you describe your spirituality, your spiritual beliefs?
It's hard to compress it into some connected to a national, something primitive. When I'm meditating, the dog would snore beside me. And the dog would lie down and snore because the dog can feel the energy. You know what I mean? something inside each one of us that's connected. I can put my arms around a tree and feel easy. When I came home, just to tell a story. I came home after going to see Guru, as they say, and the man who was meant to look after my greenhouses, had abandoned it 2 days before. And everything was gone, including the marijuana that I had in it as well. You know what I mean? Including all the peppers, the tomatoes, everything was lapsed. I was so sad because it was where I was at. But I went in and meditated, and I got the watering can and I went around everything. I sat there to meditate and meditated for about an hour and a half or so. Went to bed, came in the next morning, and everything was back to normal. Oh. Now, that to me was quite miraculous, because I'd often seen greenhouses before and whatever, but it happened. Something connects. There's an energy that's within us. That's the same as animal, that's the same as trees, that's the same. It's something that's in there. We're interconnected with life. It's a life force. It's Elan, I think it is called. The vital energy. And okay. That's,
So is there so would you say is there a creative intelligence? Is there a divine agenda? Is there some sort of thing that guides us in your opinion?
I think there's an instinct. There's an innate instinct in us when we're unafraid, when we're totally unafraid, to be without fear. You know what I mean? To be at ease. You know what I mean? I have this disease, this ease, which disconnects me. But there is an ease when I'm connected. And that occurs when I'm totally surrendered to that energy that's breathing me. Somewhere, this gift of breath is I know this gift of breath is so important. I can feel if anyone who's done yoga, you know what I mean, is union, to be connected with that space that's within us. That is so primitive. That goes back to the beginning. I know that in John's gospel, I hate using the word gospel, but John's gospel has something. Because in the beginning was the Word was God, and the Word was with God. That energy, the Word, some people call it the you know what I mean? It's that energy that's there. There's a vibration. That vibration goes through everything in this universe. It's in the rock, in the everything. Now, feel it is what you sit up and you get quiet internally in order to feel. Be at ease with that energy. The beginning was the Word was God, the Word was with God. Now, you go through that, that's with, whether it's Kabir, Guru Nanak, Jesus, Buddha, you know what I mean? They all talk about that, and they call it the name. Sometimes it's called Satnam, whatever it is. Okay. It's that vibration, and it's there connecting all of this whole shebang, including the
Okay, so it's impossible to describe, and you've begged and borrowed and stolen bits from here and there, and you've patchworked it together, but you've got your own concept of a higher power, whatever that might be, basically. Yeah.
Concept isn't much.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have experience. You have to, you know what I mean? You know when you get the lick from a dog's tongue.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Or when you get the thing from a drink of water. You can taste it, you can feel it, you know what I mean? It has to be at that level of connection. And it's that energy that's there. And that's available. You know what I mean? That light is there, that sound is within, you know what I mean? If we're on the breath, you know what I mean? The 4 techniques that are revealed on the right source. Shouldn't cost you a halfpenny. There's no money involved. There's no cult involved or anything of that nature. People ought to search for it. Ask your higher power, whoever your higher power is. Fuck you, reveal it. Find the source. Find the one who reveals that, because that's available. I'm not going to start trying to pass on energies or pass on names or anything like that. It's not.
No. But you demanded to see whatever that higher power was. Is
Yes,
that what
indeed.
you actively? You didn't wait. You sought it and you pursued it aggressively.
I searched everywhere. The source that revealed it most was a man in 1480, a man called Kabir, who was there, and he tried to unite the Hindus and the Muslims.
Mm-hmm.
He was a poet. He was married. He had children. He used bad language, and
Oh my God!
And he had different fashion. He was an incredible human being, and there's a place to him in Varanasi, his home. He was dumped as a child on a Muslim doorstep. He was a Hindu. He found a guru called Ramdas, and his guru was a Hindu.
All right.
No, when he had it, what the easiest way to do it? He was a great poet. And when that book jumped out at me back in the early 70s, and when I was looking, I'd gone through the Bible, I'd gone through the Book of Mormon, I was in and out of the Mormons looking. I was checking the Bhagavad Gita as well. None of it was really answering. This book answered something. And there were poems that told me that if you sought the master had to appear. He was obliged to appear for the devotee.
Oh.
Have it clear inside yourself, within whatever, and it has to appear. It has to come. And I read you a poem out of it.
Not yet. We've got a few questions to ask yet. We'll do one at the back end if that's all right.
Lovely, of course.
Okay, so just quickly, and I just want to take you to task on it. You said before you knew that there was a light, there was something that binds us. Could it be, I'm just proposing this to you, could it be that consciousness and awareness is just a trick of evolution, and that it is and that there is no God and that there is no consciousness, and all this is what it is? And so when you say I want to tell, how do you know? How do you know?
Because one experiences that light. When when your eyes are closed, you're in a dark room. The dark room. First wife is going off with my ex-boss. Well, that was happening.
Oh wow!
My children were all there. They were down in another room. I said, okay, you're going. And she wanted to take the children. And I wasn't very happy about that. So I said, okay, I went into the room. Instead of meditating for an hour, instead of meditating for 2, I went in for about 3.5 hours or 4, I don't know. And I got peace, total peace inside me. I came out. One of the children had gone in to see how I was. You know what I mean? Couldn't see me for some reason or other. I don't know. That's what they said. They couldn't see me in the room. But I came out after 3.5 hours and whatever. And I said, okay, children, your mother has something to say. You know what I mean? She wants to go. Now, at that time, her first daughter was also living with us because she had come over from Sweden, and I said, fine, okay. And she wants to go and live with this man, John. And you'll have to make a choice here. He's the man with the money. He's the man with money, and he has a few children himself too. And her first daughter, I wasn't the father to this daughter. As Susie says, I want to stay with Donal. The next daughter says, I want to stay with Donal. I want to stay with Dad and Dad, the other men. They all went. I said, look, Irene. Off with you, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whatever. Now, something gave me that peace and gave those children that sense to be at ease with something that was there. No, I wasn't a goody. I mean, just because I meditated and I was seeking, it wasn't to get good or to look holy or any of that stuff. That was never a part of my thing. But something was there, was an energy, and that energy is available experientially and was palpable in the fact that children could feel it so clearly. And the dogs, you know what I mean? Because it couldn't be bought. It was not, it was something that came, I don't know if that makes sense to you. You know what I mean?
You dipped into a source and you found a presence, and that enabled some kind of miracle to happen for you, or some sort of realization happen with you.
Exactly.
Okay. Right. So listen, that's a great answer. Thank you very much. So we've got about 15 minutes left, and we've got a few questions to ask. Our first one comes from Becky, and she's asking you about the light that come out of your head. Have you seen the light since you came in to the fellowship? And can you tell us about when that's happened? Or just say, if you can give it in a few minutes, that'd be great, mate.
Yeah. That's light. I practice four techniques in meditation, which those techniques are revealed in Kriya Yoga. I think I'm not going to describe them because I've been asked by the man who showed me not to reveal them, because they should be revealed by a proper teacher. I can tell you that when I meditate, I practice four techniques. One is for light, one is for sound, one is on the breath, and the other is within taste. And I don't do the hour as prescribed every day. Some days I do. Sometimes Rita is more diligent at those techniques than I am.
I can only imagine.
She's a diligent devotee. I'm not. You know what I mean? Oh. I do it sometimes just out of pain. You know what I mean? And I said, well, it's not always out of pain, but out of gratitude. When it says through prayer and meditation, I have to have the meditation. It's more important to me than prayer. You know what I mean? Because meditation is surrender. I have to put my hands up and say, I don't fucking know. Good fucking hand. You know what I mean? I know it sounds strange, but you know what I mean? Feel that thing. It's surrender. It's magical. Right. You know what I mean? Okay. I need magic.
It sounds like it.
Yeah, I need it. You know what I mean? In order to be being that's inside. Because I'd be bored with, you know what I mean, a half measure. I really would be bored unless it was happening. And unless that light is still available, Becky. You know what I mean? And I be single, I think that was what Matthew said, or something like that, you know.
Could you tell us the name of your teacher so people might be able to look into him or her themselves as opposed to revealing the secrets?
Prem Rawat. He's called Prem Rawat, and he carries this message into prisons and throughout the state. There's millions. He has millions in India and whatever.
How do you spell that? Say that again, sorry.
Prem. Prem means lover, basically. Rawat was his surname.
Prem Rawat, R-O-W-I-T-T?
R-A-W-T, I think.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, we'll put something in the chat after the Q&A is finished. Okay, so we've got to...
You'll get him on premrawat.org.
Okay. All right, we'll put that in chat. Virginia asks if you could tell us about some of the visions that you've had, or can you give us an example of some of your visions and dreams that you have?
Visions, not so much, but I have experienced from way before that anything was revealed, from astral projection. And I got smallpox vaccination. I went out of my body, and
Wow.
and as a result of that, you know what I mean, the doctor said I might be astrally projecting. That was back in 1961 or 62, when smallpox was running rife and was coming into Dublin at the time, and people were asked to get the vaccination. Well, I had an allergic response to the vaccination. I was to meet a Welsh girl who was going to show me a lot of stuff that I didn't know already, and so I was coming back from the rugby match of Ireland and Wales, and I couldn't meet her because I had to crawl up the stairs in my own house, and I couldn't stay. So I went out of the body. My parents thought there was something really radically wrong, called the doctor. The doctor told me that I wasn't just hallucinating and whatever. I was probably astrally projecting. So something inside me goes out. But that could come from the fact that that may possibly have a connection to the fact that I was born with a call. I'm a call bearer. When I was born, I was telling you that. I was born under a veil. When I was they would have probably have crucified me and kind of annihilated me back in the Inquisition days, or burnt me as a witch, because when you're born with that, and the call is something. It's the membrane. I have it here. It's there since the day I was born.
You have the what?
Caul, C-A-U-L. That was the membrane that was over my head. I was born under a veil.
Oh.
So sailors offered me a lot of money for it at different times as well. I could have put it for sale many times. I mean, we're called lucky caps. Anybody who wants to look it up, C-A-U-L.
So that's the membrane that you had on your head when you came out of your mother's womb?
When I came out of my mother's womb, exactly. And so it's meant to endow you with magical powers and all the rest of it. But you know what I mean? It could be a load of bullshit. You know what I mean? All I know is that a lot of people valued it, and valued it for fairy people and whatever. Lord Byron had it. Farrell had it. There was a lot of others that had it. There's one in every million people or something is born with that.
Wow.
Whether that answers any of the kind of the so-called magical questions, I'm not sure that I believe in any of that magic. All I know is that there's something there, you know what I mean? my mother valued it a great deal, and I still have it. So something I must value it too some way.
Wow. Okay, so listen, we're into the last sort of 5-10 minutes now. So I was just wondering, could you just give us a short poem or give us a page poem, and then I'll ask you the final question if that's all right. Unless anyone else has got one, but yeah, that's great.
I'll give you a poem. Seeing that you and your devilment put up a thing of James Joyce on the
Yes.
You did, well, yeah, I know. And I said, well, now see what he did. James, in the very beginning of James Joyce, in the opening of James Joyce, he refers to Buck Mulligan, plump and stately Buck Mulligan, and that's in the opening lines of Ulysses. But he was talking about Dr. Oliver St John Gogarty, and Dr. Oliver St John Gogarty looked after the women that were on the game in dirty Dublin, because Dublin was called dirty Dublin in those days. And the women were very poor and they needed money. And in order to feed their families, some of them went on the game. So he was a doctor and he looked after them free of charge. And he was a lovely, incredible man. And he wrote this lovely poem, which I'll read to you. Ring's End by Oliver St John Gogarty. I will live in Ring's End with a red-headed whore, and the fanlight gone in where it lights the hall door, and listen each night for her querulous shout as at last she streels in and the pub's empty out. To soothe that wild breast with my old-fangled songs till she feels it redressed from inordinate wrongs, imagine outrageous, preposterous wrongs. Till peace at last comes, shall be all I will do. The little lamp blooms like a rose in the stew. And up that garden, sound comes to me of the lasping, unsoilable, whispering sea.
Wow. Right, that's beautiful.
Keep the open mind. You know?
Oh, that's it. That's fantastic. And just to say to anyone that Donal and his lovely wife Rita are regulars at the home group, I guess, is the Shivering Denizens meeting, which is an AA Zoom meeting. We can put that in the chat. You'll get to enjoy their company every day. It's always a treat. And I'm going to ask you the final question now. And you know the question, but it's your chance to do this. So, book sales, and Donal has a couple of really great poetry books, by the way, and we'll put the links into chat for them as well. And I've read them both, and he's given them to me by hand and he signed them, which I'm very, very, very precious to me. And the question is this: so your book sales have gone fantastic, and you've made your fortune. You've bought a super yacht, and you set sail from Cork, and you go down the Africa, around the Cape of Good Horn, up into the Pacific, up past Australia into Fiji, where you've got this beautiful boat with all your possessions on it. You know the score. You hit a submerged coral reef and you rapidly sink. So you grab Rita, throw her overboard. She paddles to a deserted island, and you've got a few seconds to grab your favorite book from the bookcase and a plastic bag, chuck the book in the bag, jump overboard and swim through those sharks, land on the desert island. It's just you and Rita, eating coconuts and eating fish for a couple of weeks to get rescued and this book. What's the book? Who's it by and why?
The book is called 100 Poems of Kabir. And Kabir's poems.
Oh, you've muted yourself there, mate. Sorry, Donal. The wonders of Zoom. There you go.
Okay. Yep. 100 Poems of Kabir, translated by Rabindranath Tagore, and these were the poems that discovered the Guru for me. It told me that something was in existence that was capable of revealing. You know what I mean? That I knew from reading those poems, he was telling the truth. There was nothing else. The Bibles and all the rest of it, and all the holy books, my arse. You know, compared to simple stuff. I need simplicity. I need it to come from that heart. And as I'll read you one poem of his.
Go for it, please do.
O Sadhu, simple union is the best. Since the day when I met with my Lord, there has been no end to the sport of our love. I shut not my eyes, I close not my ears. I do not mortify my body. I see with my eyes open and smile and behold his beauty everywhere. I utter his name. Whatever I see, it reminds me of him. Whatever I do, it becomes his worship. Rising and setting are one to me. All contradictions are solved. Wherever I go, I move round him. All I achieve is his service. And I lie down, I lay prostrate at his feet. Surrender is the name of the game. He is the only adorable one to me. I have none other. My tongue has left off impure words. It sings his glory day and night. Whether I rise or sit down, I can never forget him. For the rhythm of his music beats in my ears. Kabir says, my heart is frenzied, and I disclose in my soul what is hidden. I am immersed in that one great bliss which transcends all pleasure and pain.
Wow. And thanks very much. And that's beautiful, mate. And thank you very much. And we're going to put all that in chat. I just neglected, I think, Joe C., who's a co-panelist here. Joe's got a quick question he'd like to ask you, if that's okay, just before we finish off. Over to you, mate.
Thanks, Donal. I really enjoyed that. You've been in sort of 12-step recovery through the last few decades of the 20th century and 2 decades now into the 21st century. If anything at all, have you seen the culture of AA change? And if so, how?
I see it budding. It's been budding for a number of years. It's been budding as NA developed and AA developed. There's been a budding. There's a blossoming occurring through Zoom, and that blossoming is showering. I would to have what we have in the fellowship. We have fellowship and program. We have 2 things. We have a crutch under both oxters, so that we're able to get through life, you know what I mean, with a spring in our steps. We don't. Me to have to believe religion or anything. Religion is binding. Relegare. We don't have to be bound and shackled. We're free. Happy, joyous, and free is available in our 12-step program, and that's the magic. And it's becoming evidently clear with what's happening on Zoom. And watching people that never went to a face-to-face meeting or any of that, they're getting lighter and clearer, and you can hear it in them when you watch them. That's what I see. Does that make sense to you?
That's yeah. I was curious, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Cheers, Joe, and thank you very much. And that's it for this week. Next week, our guest is an expert on liberal Judaism, so don't miss that one. So we'll be back here again next Friday at the same time. And Donal's going to stay after this particular meeting when we finish recording, and I'm sure he'd love to answer a few questions. So with that, we'll see you all next week, and I'm ending the recording now.
That's it. Thank you.